Welcome to the BXG podcast, a BXG production of the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet at the nexus of the universe and it melded as seamlessly as overdue video rentals and fake galactic antiquities. I'm one of your hosts, the Alpha Donut guy, Brent Beswick, alongside my co-host Gregory T. Filson, and T is for Ticketmaster.
Yes, indeed.
Greg, how are we?
Doing okay. It's a little later than we normally record. I would have been coming off fresh and hot.
Yeah, and that's my
It happens.
Bronchitis. Ain't nobody got time for
that. No. But I will say, it would have been funny on Wednesday because I would have been coming off fresh and hot off of that. Now, I did get tickets to Taylor Swift. Yeah. Not the tickets I wanted to get. Very high up at SoFi, which is the football stadium in LA. But I had 200 level tickets, which weren't really that much more and would have been a lot closer. And I kept buying them. And then it kept saying someone bought these and someone bought these. Now, this was after 2 hours of just sitting at the mechanic, waiting for them to tell me really nothing about my car. So that is infuriating as well. But so I get it, and I'm not kidding. And this is not hyperbole. I went through that process, I would say at least 30 times because I counted 20. So that's where I was at. And then I finally did get tickets. I was bouncing between two dates on two different things on my phone, the app and then just regular on the browser, back and forth. And I finally did get tickets. Like I said, 500 level. It's not going to be great seats, but I've never seen Taylor Swift. I've always wanted to see Taylor Swift. So
I didn't know you never had.
No, it's the weirdest thing. I'm not going to get fully into it. Every time I was going to see her, we moved. Not kidding.
Yeah, I got you.
So it was just one of those things. But yeah, so it's going to be a big, big concert. Haim is the opening act. We've seen Haim before. They're great. So that'll be awesome. But what an endeavor. And then, I tell my kids that I got Taylor Swift tickets, the fifth graders, and they looked at me literally like I made an airplane disappear in front of them. They couldn't believe it. They're like, my mom tried to get tickets and she didn't work out. And I was just like, well, I basically was just like, I struggled very hard for this, like I'm not gonna be like some of the people online, like this is the hardest thing I've ever done. I've obviously had worse things happen to me and more struggles, but the best thing about it all, and on this, is just Ticketmaster saying we did not know that the biggest pop musician in the world currently would have this many people trying to buy her tickets and also bots. We were unaware that this would happen. It's hilarious.
Yeah, a lot of what you described was actually pretty similar to what I went through trying to get a PS5 around the time of launch, where you'd get into like a queue and then it would give you like a time, like it'll be your turn this amount of time, and then your timer runs out. It's like, they're all gone.
Yeah.
Try again tomorrow, basically. It reminded me of a lot of like back in the 19 like teens and 20s where you'd like go down to the dock and hope to be picked to work that day. It was like, but I put a lot of thought into your conundrum and what it would take for me to go to a Taylor Swift concert. And this is what I landed on. I would have to have the ticket paid for, parking paid for, and all concessions, gas money, and
I would say
and $200.
Gas money, the person should drive you.
Well, yeah, whatever.
I think you shouldn't have to even think. I think you shouldn't even have to think.
Tomato.
I think that's kind of the thing.
Sure.
I think
so tickets, then that person's paying for parking and gas. The tickets, any concessions, and $200. Like you have to pay me $200.
I would say that's right along my lines for most musical artists that I haven't talked about on this show. Honestly.
Yeah, I just, here's the thing. I understand. I get it. Like you said, she's the biggest She's the biggest pop act in the world right now.
She
She's
literally had
immensely
the top
popular.
10 songs on Billboard.
Yeah,
And they're like,
that
wait.
doesn't
No,
do
but I'm
anything
saying
for
it's
me.
just, but this isn't, I'm not trying to make you like Taylor Swift. My point is the fact that Ticketmaster was like, wait, what?
Yeah, but listen, this is what I'm saying.
That's my thing.
This is what I'm saying is I understand like she's the biggest pop act, whatever. And it's not my type of music. I think we all understand that.
Sure.
But I'll give you Shake It Off. I'll give you Bad Blood. I'll give you blank 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 check, blank space.
Blank space.
But I'm going to tell you right now, the Look What You Made Me Do song, where there's like a breakdown in the middle, and she's like pretending to call herself, and she says, "What happened to the old Taylor? She's dead," is maybe one of the worst songs I've ever heard in my life.
This is
I just don't. That song is terrible. I'll give you the rest of the library. I'll give you the whole rest of the library. She wears t-shirts, tank tops, sneakers on the bleachers. Have it. Have it all and love it. But I'm here to tell you that song is just it's like somebody's antibiotic sleep farts. It's just awful.
I wouldn't disagree with you. I don't like that song either.
Awful.
I listened to a podcast on the Ringer Network called like Every Album or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're basically like, she's one of the few people that has like 200 at least, you would say, good songs out there. And I would definitely agree with that.
200 is
that
a lot
song.
Of songs.
That song you said is usually ranked in the least 5 songs of hers.
Yeah,
like
it's
top
awful.
5 worst. It isn't good. And I think she would.
Bad.
I think she would even say that. But the thing is like even every one of your favorite musicians, and you're being the King Jor.
Yeah, the Royal
has
You.
a really the Royal You, the Royal Yins.
Don't just
has
nope.
like an absolutely awful song, which is like funny to think about. It's like that should be a thing we do, is a list of like our favorite musicians' worst songs. That's actually like a fun thing, like songs we can admit that these are bad, and like that sucks, but it almost makes you appreciate the good songs more.
You have to, especially the longer a musician is around. Because there's an entire Chili Peppers album I won't listen to. I just won't listen to the whole thing. And it's The Getaway, in case anyone was curious.
Right.
But switching gears a little bit. I just want to get your take on this. What do you think the percentage chance of a caveman baby from like being an infant to adolescent? Like, what are the percentage odds that you make it? Is it like
caveman baby to
25%? Yeah.
Caveman baby to 16?
10. We'll go 10. Yeah. Like 10%. Out of 10, 10%?
I'd say 10%, very low. That baby's getting eaten by something.
But that's what I mean.
Like, low.
Yeah.
I like that this came up.
I'm going to Google it, like life expectancy.
I wonder if there's any way we could even really know, other than just making like a genuine hypothesis. Like, I think,
it depends on the remains that we like, percentage of the Stone Age people died in respect to the present very early, poor hygiene, illness, bad nourishment, and burden of later labor led to an average life expectancy of 20 to 25 years. Many children already died in their first 4 years.
I just like to know how we know these things. That's always something that.
Well, I think it's by what you find,
Sure. I feel like you need to find a lot.
Well, yeah. I mean, you have to find a lot, but I think it's probably based upon, let's say we find a settlement and the remains in a settlement, and we find, 50 adolescents skeleton remains and 20 adult. I don't know. But the other thing too is there was probably no like burial system back then. I mean, they're cavemen.
Right.
No
burial system.
But I just figure it's like if you're caveman mom and you gotta put the kid down for a little bit and go gather acorns or something. That saber-tooth, saber-tooth tiger's eating that thing.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
100%.
Yeah, 10%. Make it to 10.
10% caveman babies make it to
10. Imagine how like tough you are. Like what's funny is like the old guy in the room's probably like 20. Like he had a kid when he was like 14. That's the other thing we're not, factoring in, like, 20-year-olds taking care of a kid.
Right.
And that 20-year-old is basically like the equivalent of like a 70-year-old.
A geriatric,
Right. So
yeah. Well, that
little
scurvy.
To think about. Scurvy will get you. Get
your oranges, will get kids. You. Yeah. I just wonder too, like what were, like it said, illness and bad hygiene. I would imagine if you're like fighting a saber-toothed tiger, even if you win, if it cuts you a couple times, those things are just because like it's gangrenous. You're gangrene.
Yeah.
And then you're done.
It's all it takes is a little bit. All that bacteria floating around. That's not good. That's not gonna work.
Well, you're not taking a bath, get a shower.
You don't have alcohol to pour over that and kill anything.
No. How do you think they discovered alcohol? I don't know. That's probably something we could actually look up. Anyway, it was just something that was on my mind. Like,
I like that.
Caveman babies. That wasn't a
caveman babies. Making the dreams come true.
No, that'd be Muppet babies.
Caveman babies. They don't make it to 2. Oh man, dead caveman baby jokes. That's what we need to get into.
Oh wow. What's the difference between what's the difference between a mammoth and a, I don't know.
What's the difference between a mammoth?
A half-eaten caveman baby carcass. I don't have a mammoth in my cave.
I was like, what's the difference between a mammoth and a saber-toothed tiger? A mammoth will squeeze the baby to death, but a tiger will rip its head off.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would imagine like trampled. There was when I was at the Pittsburgh Natural History Museum, there was the case that there was something in caveman times that likely resembled a unicorn, although it was probably more rhinoceros than horse. So you can imagine a couple, like your caveman baby, you're like 2 years old, you're just starting to walk around, and then all of a sudden you get impaled by a rhino unicorn. Yeah.
I love the sound of that. I mean,
shishka baby.
I mean, like shishka baby.
All right. What do we
the Sherry's losing it right now, and she loves a dead baby joke.
That's a very dark
but very funny.
Yeah. I don't know. In any case, shishka baby. What are we?
Shishka baby.
What are we
actually? This episode
might be. Andor, Chainsaw Man, Blockbuster, Netflix's Blockbuster starring Randall Park reviews, and Andor. We should probably start with, since that's what our screens are. This episode didn't really focus much on Cassian, minus him and one of his escapee buddies getting trapped by these. I couldn't understand what the hell they were saying. These aliens. This is like the first set of aliens we've seen in the whole series thus far that I can remember, and they were talking.
It's very Star Wars.
Yeah, very like gibberish, and eventually they let them go and have their ship, or they're on the ship. I don't know, whatever. This episode really focused around a couple other story arcs. First of all, you had his mother's passing and everybody kind of seeing, oh, his mom passed. Like, this is kind of where things are going to shake out in the last episode. And like the droid is like a lost, like a lost puppy basically without its master. But then a couple of the other important things were Luthen meeting Saw Gerrera and basically saying, hey, look, we know that this other guy, Krieger's being set up for an ambush, and we can either rush to his aid and basically reveal the fact that we've got an inside man, a double agent feeding us information, or we can use this, continue to build on this source and really figure out somewhere to strike hard. And originally that was not what Saw Gerrera, played by Forrest Whitaker, had in mind, but eventually he came around to it. And then we also kind of see Mon Mothma and her family kind of having to deal with these sort of Chandrilian fuck, what is the name of that planet? Chandrilia. I don't know. I have it in a book somewhere. Whatever. I can't
Sandra
talk
Lillian
either.
cannot go outside ever again. Sandra Lillian. Well, Eddie Murphy. Lillian
okay.
cannot. Yeah, sorry.
So overall, though, I think that there was they put Bix back. This was sort of like showing the cards of everybody.
Yeah.
Out into the final episode, they put Bix back on the torture machine to get some more info out of her and that sort of thing. And it has been a while since both of us have watched this because we are recording later than usual. We usually record the day after Andor goes up, and we're 5 days later or whatever. But what did you think of I would say the other cool, this was sort of the action piece, was Luthen getting sucked into the tractor beam and pretending to be like this bumbling nobody, and then he uses some cool projectiles to knock out one of the satellites, and then when they send TIE fighters after him, eventually like his ship has lightsabers apparently. So there's your lightsabers for all the people bitching about there not being lightsabers in the show.
There you go. Here's some lightsabers.
Yeah. What did you think of the episode in general?
I thought it was okay. It was like it was not as like gripping or as like I think as aesthetically pleasing as the other ones, but I think that's almost like intentional. It's the penultimate episode, which usually penultimate episodes was like really like big and overdone, but I think this series felt to me more like it's always building to a big episode, and like obviously you want that last episode to be the big episode. You don't want the penultimate one to be the big episode, the way that the show builds. So I thought the building was still good. And while I was like, oh, it wasn't as good, I wasn't disappointed in the idea of it not being as good. It was like, I kind of liked it wasn't as good because it's like, ooh, it's leaving me wanting more coming with the season finale. So I thought the storylines were okay. I thought it just felt to me a little, it was almost too balanced in a way of like seeing both sides of everything instead of it being Andor. And that's where I was kind of at with that. I was like, okay, his mom died. We knew that was going to happen. And now, but it was a lot of other things happening that I don't really care a lot about the other stuff, to be honest. I like just the Andor phase. I understand why they do that to balance the show out, but for me personally, it's not like the stuff that I'm going towards. But I will say, I think I should say, it sounds like a funny thing. I was properly disappointed in a way where I like know now that the season finale must be awesome in that way, where it's like, it's just going to be a great season finale, or I will be disappointed, but based on the way that this show does its thing.
Yeah, I think I am remiss to also point out that he was able to sneak back to the Miami planet and reclaim his blaster and his money and all that.
That was cool.
So I think that all signs are pointing towards heading back home, but I do think I agree with you to an extent. like the Mon Mothma stuff is kind of whatever. Like I know it's important, but it isn't as compelling. I
Right.
That's maybe the one weak spot of this show is just that whole arc not being that compelling. It is to a certain degree. It's necessary because it kind of fleshes out where Luthen is kind of getting some of his money for these escapades that then he's funding. And I think that the Luthen arc is really fascinating. That's the other arc that I'm most eager to see moving forward, especially given his speech at the end of last week's episode. And Saw Gerrera is an interesting cat. I know he's a little bit more militant than some of the other rebellion leaders throughout the time of building up to the main rebellion. And so it's interesting to kind of see him on and off and that character develop in different ways. I think that I am a little bit worried about the finale because it seems like, and we already know they're doing season 2, so it's probably really likely that this ends on a cliffhanger. They've already begun production on that. I'm just a little worried because we've talked at length with the Marvel shows how the Marvel shows have a really difficult time sticking the landing with the ending. I don't necessarily think that that's the case so much with the Star Wars shows that we've gotten. Obviously, the big fight at the end of Obi-Wan and then season 1 and 2 of The Mandalorian ended pretty strongly. Boba Fett's just kind of whatever at this point. But I don't know. There's something about the run up to this that is telling me there's too many things that they need to tie together. And some of those things are going to be left out of the plot. And I think that, for example, they alluded strongly at the beginning of the show that he's looking for his sister. And we have kind of completely lost that story thread. I'm sure it'll come up, but there's the Cyril Khan thing. He was in this. He kind of got word that Cassian's mom died and that there's going to be a highly likely situation that he winds up back on the home world or whatever. And so I think that it's just there's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot in this last episode. And it's just, I think that the show's been so wonderfully paced to this point that I'm a little bit worried that they're going to really rush this in the last episode. And so maybe some of the things won't pay off necessarily in the way we would have liked. But I'm obviously I'm excited. I can't wait, Wednesday night for that show to sit down and watch the season finale and just kind of see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I agree. I just think it could be a lot, but maybe because they're having a second season, it won't be as much, and they'll try to focus on one thing.
Well, we'll see. Do you have any predictions for the finale?
I really don't. Because I think this is like one of those shows because it's so not really Star Wars that it's hard to really guess. I mean, we know where he ends up, but we don't know anything about him, and there hasn't been a Star Wars show like this. So I actually don't have an idea unless it's because we know we have a second season. We know it's not going to be the lead into Rogue One either. Right. So yeah, I think that's kind of the thing too. So I would say I would probably have had a better guess if this was only a 1 season show and be like, well, it's just going to be the lead into Rogue One. But now that we don't know that, I actually don't know. So, which I like. I do like that.
Yeah, I think that I do think that whatever ends up happening, it's going to be a loss for the Empire. I think they're going to take a loss. I've seen some theories online that Cyril Khan's going to be the fall guy for the Empire in this situation. I'm not really sure because I don't know, other than the Empire and Cyril Khan, what's really working against Andor. So I don't know. I could see him getting captured again.
Sure.
And having to escape again, but that would be kind of overwrought at that point. So I'm not really sure. I think that there is going to be probably a daring escape where they make it off and he brings the bigger guy and Bix along with him, and maybe joins up with Luthen in a more permanent way heading into season 2. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that that's probably the direction that we're going in. Is he's going to go back, find out his mom's dead, or did he already did he find out that she's dead? Was that in the show?
I don't think so.
I don't remember, but
I don't remember.
He's
so
headed,
long ago.
Yeah, he's headed that way, and I think that all interested parties are converging on this location, and there's going to be some action, and then there's going to be a daring escape and that sort of thing. And they're going to, they're either going to like just wipe that town off the map like they did with the town in Rogue One, or we're going to see somebody like Cyril Khan kind of be the fall guy, and whatever happens. But I think that that's kind of my fairly safe prediction.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good prediction. I do. Yeah, no, I think that's good.
Moving on to Chainsaw Man, episode 6, Kill Denji. We learn that the team is stuck on the 8th floor in the stomach region of the headband, the head, hand, arm devil that they thought they killed. They're stuck.
For all times.
There is no escape. And I forget the name of the devil. I am remiss, and I apologize. But he seems to feed on fear and become larger. And one of the girl, not eye patch or power, but the other one is constantly crying and succumbing to her fear and making this thing bigger. Eventually, it presents them with a deal. If you kill Denji and give him to me, I will let the rest of you go. So they hem-haw around about that, and they're going to kill him. She tries to stab him and ends up stabbing Aki instead. Power is going to kill him, but she can't because it has to be one of the humans that kills him, not a fiend. And eventually at the end, he decides, after a nap, he decides that he's going to say, okay, I know what this thing wants. I'm going to let it swallow me. I'm going to go chainsaw mode after it swallows me and try to kill it basically from the inside. And we kind of see like a little bit more backstory between Aki and Eye Patch and how their relationship formed over her love of cigarettes. And this was kind of a slower build up episode, but it's giving us a little bit more of an ongoing plot or problem. Versus just each episode being its kind of own little mini mission. And I think that that's kind of where we're like gearing up towards, like I said, in the last week or two, this is what the actual story is now for season 1 of this show.
Right.
So thoughts, Chainsaw Man, episode 6.
So exactly what you're saying is this was a really slow burn with a good ending. I mean, I like the ending. I thought the ending was great. I mean, I was like, it was a slow burn, but with the same idea of how they do things, where build up, chainsaw, let's get after it kind of thing. But I thought the build up was initially maybe the first 5 to 7 minutes. I was like, okay, like it didn't seem like it was going anywhere. And then when Denji realizes what he has to do, I'm like, oh, okay, like this all makes sense. And the crying thing was driving me nuts, though. I'm not gonna lie. I was like getting actually pissed off. I was watching this during like one of my breaks, and I just said, I can't fucking do this right now. Like, I'm around kids that are 10 talking or making noises and stuff like that throughout my day, and then I got this fucking thing crying, and I just wanted to like kill myself for a little bit. So I had to step away from it twice. It's 20 minutes and I had to step away from the crying twice because you just couldn't deal with it. And it's that kind of crying that was just like
really over the
repulsive, repulsive. And I understand why they did it. Like I get that in this thing because it's like anime, like everything's always way like anytime someone cries in anime, I hate it. I will say it's just one of those things where it's always so annoying
Their
sounding.
mouth is wide open, their eyes are
The
shut.
mouth,
Ah!
it's the
Yeah.
worst. It's just absolutely. It's like if you, it's the way crying's always represented in cartoons. Actually, not just anime.
Yeah.
It's always just over the top, and it just, especially like when you have in a week where like maybe you're dealing with like a lot of crap anyhow. It's just I had to step away, so I didn't actually. That was too much for me. But the idea of this episode, I thought was, like you said, really well conceived in the sense of like we know where this is going now. Which honestly, I didn't care. I will say
Yeah,
that's like
sure.
I honestly did not care if the show ever had a real plot because it was kind of a nice step away of like we don't care either.
Right.
If you can, like we just build up, crazy looking creature. That thing in this show with like the 9,000 head thing.
Yeah, it's really grotesque.
I'm so glad I don't watch the show before I go to bed, or I would have nightmares.
Yeah.
So that was grotesque and weird. But yeah, I would say that the way it builds up, and now we have a plot, good but not needed. Which is sort of funny. Like I rarely say that, but it was just for this show. I don't think it's needed because it is so ridiculous. But I do like that they're doing it.
Yeah, and I think it's good because it gives us a little bit of a marker that okay, this episode and the previous episode were slower, but we know because of how this episode ended that the next episode is going to be batshit crazy.
Oh, absolutely crazy.
And it's going to be where it's at now, and seeing this show versus the trajectory of a lot of traditional anime that I have watched through the years is this is a battle that could take 2 or 3 episodes to resolve. And so we had these sort of couple slower episodes. The only thing is this is so much more compact because it's only 12 or 13 episodes versus even like the first season of Naruto, which was like 25, I think. And so, but the flip side of that is a lot of shows like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z or Hunter x Hunter, whatever. There's a lot of filler moments in those shows where it's just like the main character and the adversary just literally yelling at each other. And that just takes up you take a show that could have been a show that could have been truncated into 16 episodes and stretch it out to 24 or 25. So I do think that that's part of it too. And I think that that's one thing that this show has going for it is there's not a ton of filler. And it seems like moment to moment, things progress pretty rapidly versus, and I don't think I think the other thing that I appreciate about this show is that they explain things to you. They explain what's happening. Okay, we're stuck on the 8th floor. We cannot go up. We cannot go down. If we go out the windows of the rooms, we just come back in on the other side. But they don't like take time to continuously beat you over the head with, this is the predicament of the protagonist. It's just, this is what it is, and we have to figure out how to get out of it. And I thought that like one way of kind of advancing the story in an interesting way or like a succinct way was the fact that Denji takes a nap. And so that shows like the passage of time, like they've passed time, but time hasn't actually passed. And we don't know how long he was out for, but while he was out off screen, girls freaking hiding in a closet crying, Power's eating all the food, Aki's just pacing around trying to figure stuff out. The other guy like tries really hard to figure something out and then just is like sitting on his own. So rather than take the time to like show us all that, it's just like, well, we're just going to summarize this after his nap. So I think that they're doing a good job of pacing this a lot better than some of its contemporary pieces or contemporary shows in the same genre where these things can be drawn out very, very long. So I'm appreciative of that. And even though this was a slower episode, I thought that it did a good job of building story and building tension towards what we know next week will be just a completely off the rails battle. And I can't wait for it.
Yes, me too. It's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be, I mean, it's gonna be, 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 it's g just 20 minutes of chaos, and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
McDonald's style.
The intro video is too long.
Well, yeah, just skip it.
Yeah, me too. But like the first time, it was like cool because it's all these pop culture references and everything. But now it's like, okay, it's like 2.5 minutes long.
It's way too long, and I just
that's what she said.
That's what she said.
So, any other final?
No, I like this show.
On?
This is one of those few shows where like I didn't really care what direction they went because it was nice to see something just so wildly different. So
we've been watching a lot of heavy stuff too, like leading into this.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is not necessarily light, but different. Just different.
Yeah. All right. So we'll move along here to our series review.
Oh.
Blockbuster on Netflix, starring Randall Park, Melissa Fermero, Tyler Alvarez, Madeline Arthur, Olga, that's an awesome name, Olga Merediz, and guest appearances by J.B. Smoove, among others, Leonard Robinson. The story of the last blockbuster on Earth, Randall Park plays manager turned small business owner Timmy, who's charged with saving the last blockbuster on Earth. And the show, it happened. This show happened. Greg, your thoughts on Blockbuster?
I'll start by saying that I only watched 5 episodes of this because that's all I could take. I watched the first 4 and then the last one. Because I was like, I got to see what actually happens at the end. I hate this show. This is one of the worst things that like, you and I have talked about. Like we'd stop doing this when something felt like work. This felt like at the coal mines for me.
Oof.
It was so bad. And there's just so many reasons that it's bad. But the number one reason that it's bad is that the writing is so like write a sitcom like we'll start off with like an intro that doesn't mean anything, and then we have a problem develop, problem resolved, and it's just like nothing mattered. Like the end I guess kind of had like sort of like a thing where, you know, spoiler, like he decides not to keep up with the blockbuster. I don't know, but it was just like
I don't think it matters. I don't think this show's going to get a second season.
No, there's no way it should. But you know what I mean? Is like the idea of like the cliffhanger thing or whatever. But and then the other problem, and I don't necessarily think this problem is as much. This is like the way that Janie and I had talked about. It's just Blockbuster was canceled out because of Netflix, and Netflix is kind of playing off of this. And this is kind of like the comeuppance of like, this is what you did to Blockbuster, and now this show is kind of like saying you can't make a show about this because you don't have writers that can do anything funny. I like Randall Park and I like Melissa Fumero as like side people. She's really good in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. She's great in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but she's also not a lead in that show. And I know he was a lead on like another show, but I can't think of the name of it right now. I was like on ABC, but he's not a good lead. Like there's a reason why I said he used to be on that show, because he is a good side character, but like he can't carry anything. And it just, there are certain people just have that charisma, and like the show can be bad, but like he doesn't have any of that. He, to me, has like zero charisma. And the other thing I will say that just made this show so bad to me, like he's funny.
I don't know. I think saying that he has zero charisma is off base.
Well, what I say is for this show, for this type of show, I think there are shows where he works and it's awesome. But for him to be the lead person, it just didn't work for me. I couldn't take it seriously at all. And then the other thing that I absolutely hated is it always said special guest appearance at the end by JB.
Yeah.
Dude, you ain't famous enough.
That.
Like, he isn't famous enough to be special guest appearance. Like, yeah, you're on Curb Your Enthusiasm, but like, I don't care. It was just, it actually irritated me every time I would see that. like the 5 times that I saw it, and I was just like, JB Smooth, like you're funny and like you're relatively cool, but you're not special guest appearance cool when you show up in every single episode.
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand
And
about
it
that
just
was he was
drove
in
me.
like 9 of the episodes or
And it
7 of
made
the
this
8,
show
whatever.
seem like it made the show more. It made this show feel like it was more important than it was. This show's a nothing show. Like I said, I couldn't get. We've had a couple weeks get through it. I couldn't do it. I just could not do it. I had to be at least somewhat. We've watched some pretty bad things, but this to me is, I think, as a consumable thing, was the worst thing that I've put myself through, because I like comedy. I think that if I sat down and had to write something funny, I think he'd do a pretty good job at it. I don't think I ever laughed. I actually don't think I laughed out loud once. I may have said that's funny once or twice, but for me to actually laugh out loud this show, zero, nothing. It did nothing for me. I just, I haven't even looked at what the other people think. I just know that I dislike
It
it very
was
much.
not it was it's a 23 critical, 44 audience
I would like
on
to know the
Rotten Tomato.
23% that thought this show was worth it.
I I think my thing is I watched it the whole way through. I didn't have any issues getting through it. And I think the first episodes were not very good. And I would say the first, well, probably honestly, the first 4, like you said, they were not very good. But I think the thing that I find the most disappointing about this is that there's a boatload of missed potential in this show.
Sure. Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that, and this is kind of becoming a problem overall that I'm seeing, is we have to check certain boxes, right? It's like I found each character on their own to be, in their own way, kind of interesting, like each character. But like you said, I'm not going to be as harsh on it as you, but I think that it wasn't good. But I feel like there was a lot of missed potential, and I thought that each of the characters had their own individual layers of potential. But it's almost like you have to, okay, like you said, it's like by the numbers sitcom, right? It's like, okay, there's this sort of Jim and Pam, will they, won't they romance throughout the season. You have this relationship that reminds you of Michael Scott and Todd Packard, kind of from the early seasons of The Office, with Jimmy and Jimmy Park and JB Smooth's 2 characters, where it's like he's trying to be the boss, but he also wants to be the cool guy for his dude, and then his dude douchebag. And then you have like the part where he gets into this other relationship. You didn't even see that. He gets into this relationship with this other girl, and it just seemed like,
well, she shows up in the last episode.
Yeah. To borrow a phrase from our gaming co-host Charles, this was like a Wish version of The Office. And that's a real damn shame, because this is a really cool concept to do a show about the last blockbuster on Earth. And maybe it was the actors. I think a large part of it was the writing.
The writing was just bad. It was just bad writing.
I don't necessarily agree with you that I don't think that Randall Park's capable of carrying the show. I think he is, with better writing. They tried to be too quirky. They tried to be too like on the nose in the moment.
It was very corny.
Yeah.
And my thing on this is why I say this, because I think he's good at, I like him, and this is why I thought maybe the show could be good. My problem is he's kind of a corny guy.
Yeah,
And
sure.
I mean this in a nice way. Like, I think I'm kind of corny. I think he's kind of a corny guy, but when you write corny jokes for a corny person, that's like two wrongs don't make a right. You
Right.
don't want to, you
Yes.
actually want him to be kind of more like, I know it sounds weird, but you want him to be a little like harder. You know what I mean? Like, you want to have him be like a little rougher than he is. He's so corny that it's the idea of like Michael Scott is not like Steve Carell is not corny.
Right.
Michael Scott is the corniest thing alive. And so that's
Yeah.
why that works, is that because Steve Carell isn't corny as a person, he's funny, but he's not corny. To make him corny and not seem cool, Randall Park isn't like, and like I said, I don't think this is a mean way. Randall Park does not seem cool to me, and like the idea of like cool, like Chris Evans is cool.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so when you do that too much corniness, it was just too much. It was
Yeah.
a corniness overload where like you probably don't even think this is funny while you're doing this.
I think the difference between the Timmy character and Michael Scott is that while Michael Scott is extremely corny, he also has no self-awareness. He's completely aloof
Right.
to that
Very
fact.
serious about
Right.
everything.
And so I think you either have to take the Timmy character in a direction of he's going to be more aloof or lack self-awareness, or he just needs to be rather than this kind of like, okay, I'm going to be this corny cheeseball, but I'm also going to be like we can do it, guys.
Yeah.
Just be that instead of also being the corny jokester. Like, leave one of the side characters for that, basically.
Right, exactly. This is where literally any of the side characters could come in that. I think what this show, like you said, it was potential to have like a good idea. With this show,
well, we did the trailer reaction, and we thought it looked, based on the trailer, it had promise, but it was just it was a failure of execution.
The idea, what they did is, like I said, it's that opening act that means nothing, which is totally fine. Parks and Rec, Office, Seinfeld even had opening acts that meant nothing to the rest of the show. The problem is that they always did the thing where like something goes awry or we have to do something. I think what have made this show good, just a day in the life.
Yeah.
I think if it's just day in the life of working at the video store and just the problems that ensue, like, and we've all worked at a place where like someone's like, man, could you imagine if this was a sitcom or if this was a reality TV show or something like that? And you hear that a lot. It's like, of course that'd be bad, but you know what I mean? Where it's like just the day in, like working at a bookstore like I did, like there were funny moments that happened. And it's like you could do that inner workings, but they always had to do something. And I think that's what made this show. It's like they didn't know what to do. And so they just had to always do something that really had nothing to do with it being a blockbuster. This could have been anything.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that makes this is the last blockbuster. Like it should have been the inner workings of like you are working at a thing that's like ultimately going to fail.
Right.
But like let's just have that day you have a weird customer. Like I think that would have been so much better. You look at the way The Office was, and I'm just saying this because I think this is the closest correlation. Is just that sometimes The Office was literally just that. It was the inner workings of The Office. And sometimes there were some side stuff, but the side stuff always kind of worked of still the inner workings of The Office. Like I said, this could have been anything. A blockbuster, a TGI Fridays. It didn't matter. Like the actual idea of this being a blockbuster didn't matter. And I think that's what made this show just a disappointment for me is you had something that was a thing. And I don't care about the Netflix thing as much as, but you could have made it just funny on the aspect of like day to day, you're working at a video store. I think that works.
I think that to kind of expound upon your point a little bit, I think that what works about The Office or Seinfeld or Friends even is Dunder Mifflin itself is his own character. Jerry's Apartment is a character. Monks is a character. Central Perk is a character in all these sort of famous sitcoms. You know what I mean? The
Frasier's House is a character.
Right. The set of Tool Time on Home Improvement. You know, the list goes on. And I don't think that they did a good job of making the store a character. And I think
when it is a character in
it should be
pop culture. in
Yes,
pop culture,
it should
Blockbuster
have
is
been.
a thing, and that's crazy to
Right.
me. Like,
It's they I think a lot of times too that they made the problem in each show too big.
yeah, yeah,
The problem was always, what are we going to do to save the store? And I think that that is probably an overarching theme of each of the season, but I don't think you have to hammer that down on each episode. I think like an episode where somebody put the wrong disc
yeah.
into the wrong case and they have to go along and like it's like a Sherlock Holmes, like we have to find where this disc is.
What it is somebody puts like an adult movie in a kids movie.
Right.
That's an episode.
That's an
that
episode.
works, and that's funny. Like that
Yeah.
is actual thing that would happen. And
Yeah.
like a parent, this is like what happens is that a parent comes back and is like,
Aghast.
"Oh my god,
Yeah.
yeah." But
Yeah.
like the person that's there is like a first time worker, and they like just say, "Well, I'll just put it back." Like they don't think about it at all.
Right. And then it just keeps being a thing. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
we just wrote an episode that I think like just thinking about this, I got a smile on my face because that's funny. That's
Right.
hijinks ensue, and I think that leads to it makes him not corny,
Right.
you know, and it makes a thing where like different people are working on this together. It works.
I just think
we just wrote an episode and we just did it in 5 seconds, and that was
his character should have been, I think, instead of being like the I diffuse stress with like bad jokes and corny humor. His character should have been, I'm always positive,
right,
no matter what. And when the stress cracks down on me, I just become more positive.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's
like a Leslie Knope.
A Leslie
Knope.
It's like the situation you said, like we all know how this ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna get closed. Like that's just the end, regardless of this show. If the show goes for 1 season or 9, like that's how it ends. And so I think just to have him be a character who's just relentlessly positive in the face of knowing exactly what's going to happen would have served that character a little bit better. And I think that I almost feel like you make him a secondary character.
And well, that's what I said.
Yeah, and the lead is like
a lead character.
Yeah, I don't know, but
I feel like the lead should have been. And it sounds. I mean, it has to be someone who just works there. Who just works there?
Yeah,
right.
And it's just like, this is my shitty job. Like this is my shitty job.
The thing I hate at the end of this show so much too is like, this is the only thing I've ever cared about, and it's like, it just made it so cheesy at the end too. It's like you're right, 100%. The lead character is just some guy. It's like, I can't believe this is my job, and I have to go through it. And he's just, it's like the Ron Swanson, but you make that Ron Swanson character a lead, where like you talk to him. And I know a lot of people do that same thing where like the interview thing doesn't need to be that.
Doesn't need to be a mockumentary. No,
but it could have been just a guy who like, I'm here. Like,
yeah,
okay. And the jokes bounce off of him. He has no humor. There's no sense of humor to this person. He literally comes in, he's like, all right, I guess we rent out VHSs today. You know, like they're whatever, DVDs. Yeah, and so I think that is the way you make this work. And then when we take our episode that we wrote, maybe I write this episode or something, he just doesn't care. He's like, well, you got it. Kids are going to see boobs eventually. Like he just says something like that. And it's just like, that's the thing. And everyone else is like freaking out. And he's just like, whatever.
There's just so many things within that setting that you could riff on for just, that's an episode, like the staff picks. They started to play around with that, but instead of like going into it, it just became, it was wasted potential. The candy thing, like they went into it, and that was, I don't know if you saw that episode, like, but the candy, like the promotional candy stuff, like that could have been very funny. There's so many little idiosyncrasies about the video store. Like we could probably do an entire episode of just our memories of going to like Showtime Video and Mercer. You know
Sure.
what I
Yeah.
mean? And there's so
100%.
many of those little idiosyncrasies where you could have
I
played
mean,
on that, but instead they, I don't know,
I mean, Seinfeld did a thing with this with the staff
with
pick,
the
you
staff
know,
picks episode. Yeah,
and it's
Vincent.
like, who cares? Just steal that idea. Who cares?
Yeah,
It's, you know what I mean? Like, and
yeah.
you just make it like someone's obsessed with that pick.
Well,
And
I
people
mean,
will be like, it's
they
like,
stole so many other plot lines anyway. So what's the
right. So
difference?
like, do that. It's funny. It'll
Yeah,
work. That was my biggest thing, is that they tried to make it too much about things happening outside when you're literally Blockbuster, and it just
yeah. Everything should have been
in the store.
in there. Yeah. I
Yep.
mean, like, I mean, we could go on and on about the things that we would fix, but like, it would have been funny if he had just like a legitimate rivalry, not like a thing with the JB Smoove character where it's like that's his
Right.
best friend, but they're also kind of rivals. No, I mean like an actual rivalry with somebody else in that little plaza where it's
Yep.
just like, oh God, Greg that runs Five Guys. You know what I mean? Something like
He's
that. I don't even know
like,
why. I didn't even mean to say
no, that's no, because everybody uses Greg now. That's just the thing. But
Steve.
uh,
Like, oh
I
God, there's
think this
Steve.
is
He
here's
runs the
an
Bath and
episode.
Body Works.
I have another episode. We're writing TV shows on this. So Blockbuster has a plaza discount, but the other place doesn't. That he has a rivalry with, and
Yeah,
it's a lunch place.
sure.
And so he tries to go and he's like, I give you a discount. He's like, well, I don't care.
Yeah.
And that's like that is a show like that. And you're still taking a little bit outside, but then he comes back and they're like, and he's super confident. He's like, this time I'm not backing down. I'm getting my burger 20% off because we give him 20% off with their plaza discount. And he goes over there and the guy's like, no, we don't do that here. We don't do that here. That's an episode.
Yeah.
We did 2 episodes in 10 minutes.
Oh my God. Excuse me.
I feel like we're George and Jerry and the thing.
Oh God. Yeah. We're getting our treatment read. Media recommendations. Not Blockbuster.
Don't worry,
what would
darling.
you give? Actually, let me back up. Score it out of 10. Yeah.
3.
Yeah, I would give it a 4. But I made it through the whole season.
Sure.
So the later episodes, there are some funny moments, I will say.
Okay. Maybe I'll go back at some point.
It's just, like I said, a lot of missed potential. A lot of missed potential.
Come on.
But anyway, media
recommendations. Don't worry, darling. That movie is actually very, very good. Harry Styles aside, Florence Pugh aside, it's awesome. Like Janie and I were in thrall. She doesn't care about Harry Styles. She cares about Harry Styles. She's like, but she's not like me with Harry Styles or
what
Florence
does that
Pugh.
say about you?
What do you mean?
I don't know.
I just like Harry Styles a lot, and I like Florence Pugh a lot.
I'm curious.
I've always been when I'm a fan of something, Brent, you know.
Oh, I know.
I'm a big fan of something. I am all in with that.
I'm aware.
I am all in with that. And so, and we're both like the entire time. It's just like the only time you pause because you got to pee or something, but it's just like no words. We're just watching it. I honestly it's a movie I would watch again and again. I think it's so good. I think it's captivating. I think Florence Pugh should be nominated for an Oscar for it. She's unbelievable. Harry Styles actually isn't in it that much, to be honest. He's very good when he's in it. And he also is just British, which is awesome. I love just hearing. I like when British people are just British. They're just themselves. They're not being British. They are just themselves. It's like when you hear Christian Bale just talk like Christian Bale. It's always like, whoa, that's kind of weird. But very, very good. I also started Kelly Ripa's book, Livewire. Very good too. Just started it. She's very open. She has like some things she can't really get into, but she's a good writer. She's very funny. But I just started that. So those would be my 2 media recommendations. The thing I would not recommend is just parent-teacher conferences. They're a waste of time. So
not for the parents. Not for the parents.
Okay.
Good to get an update.
You get a lot out of them. You got a lot out of them.
We did, yeah, but that's neither here nor there for ours. Okay. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you did.
Don't worry, darling. 39 critical, 74 audience, just in case anybody's curious.
I think that audience makes sense. It's just that I think the critical, we tried to break it down. We couldn't figure out why people didn't like it. So we'll see. It could be.
I'll read your review. When your film becomes about, this is from Alan French of Sunshine State Cineplex.
Oh, wow.
When your film becomes about everything, it's actually about nothing without the focus. Don't worry, darling feels like a knockoff of better movies.
I did not.
Let's see here.
It's not about that, though.
Jason Adams of My New Plaid Pants. Ultimately middling. That's the whole review. Diego Peralta of Film Inquiry. Ultimately, the film tries to work with too many ideas without giving them one direction, which is funny because Harry Styles was in one.
Harry Styles, they did that intentionally.
Yeah, that was funny. Creating a messy narrative that looks pretty on the outside but conflicting when carefully analyzed, similar to the Victoria Project. One more. Let's see. Top critic David Stratton of The Australian. After this promising start, the film seems not to know quite where to go next. The ending is certainly a letdown, and perhaps the screenplay should have had another rewrite. There you go.
I will say
that's a top critic.
I thoroughly disagree.
Top critic.
This movie knows exactly what it's doing the entire time. I will say that. The Australian. I read it every day. I'm sad to hear it. Guess I'll cancel my online subscription to The Australian.
How about now we're gonna run out of time. Survivor, The Amazing Race, The Challenge.
I'm catching up on The Challenge. It's good.
And God of War Ragnarok are my media recommendations for the week. And you can catch us on social media, BXG Podcast, BXG Productions on Instagram and Twitter, Facebook.com/BXG Productions, YouTube, BXG Productions, for trailer reactions, video reviews, more gaming content now is coming out. Check all that out. Subscribe. We need one subscriber.
One more.
One. I'm going to check it right now.
One.
Maybe you're the one.
Only one.
There can be.
You're supposed to be the chosen one.
Had the higher ground. No. Still, we got room for one.
Yep.
Giving away a gift card, $25 every 100 subscribers.
We're edging on that right now.
Get there. I don't know what that means. It sounds sexual. I don't like it. Take care. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.
All that stuff.
Enjoy your Thanksgiving.
Week.
Yeah. Gobble, gobble.
Gobble, gobble.
Take care, friends.